I even read a couple of them.
So,
Oh, you've got the little sliding ladder back here too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, man.
You have all the toys.
Have you ever
Well-
been to the Biltmore House?
In Asheville?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you remember their library there? I mean, that thing is amazing.
Yeah, that's floor to ceiling, wall to wall.
Yeah. It doesn't even have like a little balcony up there where you can walk around. I can't remember.
I
that.
think so. Yes, I think it does. And those are all, leather bound, gold pressed. Beautiful book.
I had an old set of Dickens books and stuff. There's like 30 different books and stuff that came in the set, and it was really, really old. And I pulled them out the other day, and the cover and stuff on them need to be reconditioned. And they were starting to show a little bit of wear. They're in really good shape, but I ordered some stuff online, and it's specifically designed to, rejuvenate or bring it back up to speed. And man, what a difference it made on those covers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got one book from 1745 and a bunch from the 1800s. And then some old first editions. It's one of the things I like to do is collect.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
I'll never use that stuff. I got a pretty good sized jar of it. You're welcome to have it. Those are the only books that I need to use it on. It'll all go to waste. It'll sit in there forever.
Yeah, maybe I'll talk to you about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just want to let everybody know we're now streaming to YouTube.
All right, Brad, is Frank on? Because I can't see him.
I do not see Frank.
Okay. One minute.
Jeremy, have you heard from Frank?
nope, I called him Friday and so I hadn't heard from him today.
Okay.
I can call him. Are you gonna call him?
I was gonna see if I have a text from him.
If not, it's 6.
You got a plan. Go start if you need to. I'll be right there. Hey, Deborah, can you call Frank real quick and see if he's coming to the meeting? Sorry.
Okay, well, we'll get started, and if he catches up, that's great. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a Village of Tequesta Council workshop, which is being held using Zoom video and audio conferencing and the Village's YouTube channel. Remote council meetings have been authorized by State of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in his executive order number 2020-69. It is Monday, May 4th, 2020, and it is 6 p.m. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll? Lori, I think is still muted.
Very good, sir. Thank you. Bye.
Brad?
Brennan?
She's unmuted.
Okay. Madam
Mayor.
Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Brennan?
Here.
Vice Mayor Stone?
Here.
Councilmember Brandon?
Here.
Councilmember Prince?
Here.
Councilmember Deambra?
We just got word he will be on momentarily. So.
Well, let's see if we can wait a minute or two.
If we can wait 1 minute,
Council.
I need to mute everybody so that new entrants are not unmuted. And I will
All right.
unmute you. Give me about 15 seconds.
Okay, let us know.
All right, all council members, the manager and Lori and Keith are unmuted.
Okay, is Councilmember Deamber here?
He's on, Brad. You might need to unmute him.
Looking for him. Yes, he is unmuted.
All right, so once more, I'll just ask the question. Is Councilmember Deamber here?
Yes.
Okay, hang on. All righty. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, for an orderly flow of the workshop, council will discuss the agenda item before citizen comments and questions will be taken. If joining us using Zoom, all incoming callers will be muted until the lines are open for public comment. If you have written your comment or questions using comment cards or YouTube, they will be read by the clerk prior to taking telephone calls. As is customary in chambers, council chambers, please state your name and address for the record before speaking. Please mute your phones now if you are not planning on speaking. Comments and questions are limited to 3 minutes. So let's get started with agenda item number 1, COVID-19 update. Manager Jeremy Allen.
Good evening. Just a few notes from the county regarding COVID before we kind of dive into the specific operations for the village. As many of you know, Florida has began phase 1 of reopening the state. You know, some of the things like reduced occupancy, social distancing, beach restrictions, elective surgeries, those things are allowed. All phase 1 openings did not include Palm Beach County, Broward, and Miami-Dade. So we're kind of our own separate island with some of those things. We are working with those counties specifically so that way if we open our venues or our beaches and maybe they're not there yet when it comes to some of the numbers, we don't want all those people rushing up to Palm Beach County and vice versa. They don't want all those people run down to Broward. So we, I guess a month or so ago, we decided to partner with them and all work together. So any of the restrictions and things that we do will encompass them as well. So it may prevent us from opening maybe a little earlier than maybe we could. They're looking at all those things and they'll weigh that accordingly. Prior to this weekend, we were trending very well with our positivity rate, the number of tests versus people who are positive at 10.5%, 10.6%. The county is closely monitoring the hospitalizations and ICU beds, but the last 3 days have shown a spike. So, you know, we've, relaxed some of those restrictions last week with some of the parks and rec stuff, and they're actually seeing some higher numbers right now. So they're on kind of alert on what that'll do. We're also looking at some of the other entities that are relaxing some of their restrictions to see what their hospitalizations and ICU bed does, that they do with that. I know the chiefs, both the chiefs and I are on a conference call every day with the county. And so we're constantly getting updates. And I know the chief is always, he has it up on his screensaver, I think, for, all the statistics. As far as the village operations, we're currently all employees are working in some fashion. Those employees that, have jobs that can telecommute are telecommuting. They are still working. Everybody's doing so. I have been asked on several occasions, what are these relaxed restrictions from the county? What does that mean for operations? What does that mean for telecommuting? I have included a packet for you guys, and I saw there were some type errors as far as phase 2. I think it was on there twice. But we do have a phased approach to come back to work and open our doors. A lot of that will mimic some of the Palm Beach County. And when we start to reduce some of those restrictions, that'll start triggering some of us coming back to work and being here, on site. And then, as we get into phase 2, that'll allow us to open some of the buildings. And phase 3 is closer to normal operations where we have more of a full-time crew here all the time. And then of course, phase 4 of that would be the new normal, whatever that looks like with social distancing and masks and things like that with all of our team here. I have been pleasantly surprised with our working arrangements. It seems like we I haven't heard of a lot of issues, no lapse of service. We obviously don't interact with the public like we used to, but we do make contact with public. We are having conversations with them. It's not like it's not hard to reach us. We're available by phone and teleconferencing, daily, so that hasn't been an issue. Just a couple of the highlights as far as our service. We did have to halt the water meter replacement. I know that's been a project we've been working on for multiple years now, and we were really working on getting to a solution for that, but the contractor did have to pull back on that. We hope that toward the end of the month, we'll be able to resume that, depending on some of the restrictions that relax. We are close to having a summer camp plan in place. I know we've really teetered back and forth, but Greg has done a great job of trying to put together an alternative. The alternative is that maybe we do half-day camp. We'll be able to have 2/3 of our kids that do outside camp activities instead of indoor. As you know, we have a very small facility. So we are working on an alternative. It will not look like the same camp that we have typically done, but we are working for some solution to be able to give our parents an opportunity to bring their kids to our camp. We hope, obviously we hope next year we'll be able to go back to normal activities with that. Let's see. So May was or is the target month for our country club sidewalk project. As you know, we've halted a lot of major projects for the COVID. This was one that was approved prior to COVID. It's part of our infrastructure tax. It does not affect the general fund budget. So we do have a meeting, a pre-construction meeting tomorrow. We will have all of our signage, everything available. I mean, unless I hear otherwise, the last marching orders from council was to proceed with that project. If there's a specific, concerns about it, we may have to bring it up another meeting. You, can, as your final closing comments, can ask for that to be considered. But the last marching orders we got that we were going to proceed with that. We will continue to have the meetings in this format until we can allow the meetings to be open. Right now, we have gatherings of 10 or more is not allowed or highly not recommended. So it's very difficult for us to have a council meeting in even a social distancing meeting and be able to allow people into the council chambers. We're not able to stream it currently with our current technology and have the meeting in person. So we're going to continue this format until we get to a point where we can have gatherings of more than 10 people. We do monitor the situation daily. We hope that we'll get to the new norm, whatever that new norm is. We hope that we'll get there soon. Be happy to answer any questions if there's specific questions about operations or anything that we're doing COVID related.
Anyone for Jeremy?
Yeah, Jeremy, it's Frank. I understand, the partnering with Palm Beach, Broward, and Dade, but the reality is that obviously Martin County is not included. Martin County is one of the ones that's opening up here. And quite honestly, we have a lot more in common with Martin being where we're located than we do with the southern part of Palm Beach County, which is really the hot spot. It's Boca, from West Palm Beach down to Boca, and particularly Boca. Has there been any thought given to reaching out to see if we can, I'm not talking about opening beaches, I'm talking about businesses. We can't try to accelerate the process whereby we open up to Quest businesses. I think that would be of tremendous benefit to our community.
Well, right now we're under the order of Palm Beach County. So Palm Beach County would have to relax their restrictions in order for us to relax our restrictions. So we cannot, so until they remove their restrictions, I mean, we'd have to, the municipalities would really have to make that push and put pressure on Palm Beach County at this time. So the county has to remove those restrictions before Tequesta can.
Well, I guess what I'm looking at is the logic. I mean, obviously, on a state-by-state basis, the governors are looking at each of the areas and each of the counties separately. If possible, we can get within the county itself. Can we have a conversation about looking at areas within the county also on a localized basis, instead of just putting it all into one big bucket? Because we don't fit into the bucket the way some of the other parts of the county do. I don't know, maybe this is a Keith question, but
Well, I'll let Keith chime in, but I think the other problem with that is the governor specifically left Palm Beach County, Broward, and Miami-Dade in a bucket where our restrictions are not relaxed. The county cannot take less restrictions than the state. So the state has the, obviously the higher authority. So until the state gives Palm Beach County, Broward, and Miami-Dade any kind of authority to do that, they can't even, their hands are tied. So the governor left those restrictions in place for all three of us. So even if Palm Beach County said, we don't want to, we're good, we're going to go forward, we can't until the state allows us to. So really it's at the state level. And Keith, if you have any additional comments to that.
before Keith joins in, I want to intercede just one moment, because I mentioned this and then you said, well, the county basically has us under a lockdown. I guess what I'm really asking is, should we be going to the state? Should we be going to our state representatives or DeSantis and seeing if there could be some flexibility given to localize this on a county by county basis?
That's where we'd have to start. We'd have to start with the state. The state would have to reduce those restrictions, and then we'd have to get the county to basically say, we're different than Broward and Miami-Dade, and they would have to do those restrictions specifically for that. And I mean, Keith, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, this is a top-down exercise, if anything. I know Commissioner Valashay went on record when the state announced the phase 1, and he, with similar comments to Mr. D'Ambra's comments, being critical of grouping Palm Beach County in with even Miami and Broward. But both of you have, in my view, expressed the correct process. This would have to be a top-down thing. There would have to be a change at the state level that could then be implemented at the county level, which would allow it to be implemented at the local level.
I would be curious of our fellow council members, if is this something that we want to ask Jeremy to get started with in some way? Do we want to break out of what the county is doing at this time and push that envelope yet?
I have a question concerning how the county would proceed unincorporated areas that would the Quest address.
So I think what, if I, correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, but if the council as a whole would like to see us relax some of the restrictions, really our action would be that we could do a resolution to support the county or ask the county to relax some of the restrictions. I mean, we'd have to actually start with the state. The state would have to relax those restrictions, but our support would have to come to the council support would have to ask the county on that behalf to relax those restrictions. And even if it takes going up to the state, they have to ask for those relaxed restrictions. So really the only thing that we can do from a council standpoint is pass a resolution of a statement. And I think Boca Raton did something like that. I think there was a couple other municipalities that passed a resolution asking for those things.
Jeremy, you're talking with managers often, every day, I think, still.
Mhm.
Is Jupiter or Juno Beach or Gardens or any of those expressing their inclination to also move out of the entire county if possible? So the North County managers, are they looking at this at all?
No, I think, when we really started talking about coming out of this deal, there was a large conversation about how we went in and how the municipalities didn't necessarily work very well together. Some were imposing stricter regulations than even the county was. And so when we first really started talking about coming out of this, the county made a very bold statement that they wanted everybody to work together as we came out. So that way, as one municipality didn't have stronger regulations. So as soon as the county relaxed them, that one city didn't go, well, I'm not ready and I'm gonna be stronger. They really wanted everybody to have a united front. And so really nobody has stuck out and said, we're ready, we want to, let's do it. It's always been, the county is really stressing that they're doing everything based on science. So it's really hard for anybody to speak out and say, well, we don't agree with science and we want to, you know, we want to do it on our own. And so nobody to this point has spoke out, that at least in the public forum that we're in, they have not done that. You know, most of the municipalities are trying to hold together and do it all as one.
You know, and Jeremy, nobody's saying to not do it based on science, but again, when you look at the data sets are not uniform throughout a large geographic area. And so to say we're basing it on science, well, again, it's a matter of what data set you're looking at and how expansive or that data set is. Obviously in the state, they allowed a lot of the counties to move forward because their data sets are favorable. My argument is that within Palm Beach County is such a large area that you've got different data sets. Boca is very different than where we are. So again, I agree. We'd have to go to the state and open a conversation, I think, with the state to say, hey, you've allowed flexibility on the level. Should you allow flexibility within the county level based on the data sets? And then allow within the county, give the county some flexibility. Now, I agree, the county would ultimately have to agree to go along, even if the state said yes. But I just think it might be worth an effort, at least to have a conversation.
I mean, I think that's the conversation. If council wants to do that, I'd be more than happy to run with it. If you guys feel like that's where we need to go. I mean, we could start at the state level and express our concern, both the state and county level, that, you know, we feel like it should be a local choice versus a regional choice. I think that's what you're getting at.
But again, based on data sets.
Yeah.
Keith,
Jeremy, have you got any indication from them? When do you think they're going to start allowing us to open up more businesses and stuff here in, you know, throughout the county?
I don't have a good feeling for that. You know, I mean, especially today, they're talking about, you know, seeing increased hospitalizations, increased ICUs. It was a very, I guess, guarded comment when they kind of led with that. So, you know, they haven't really even talked about committees on opening. You know, when they started talking about parks, golf courses, those things, they were forming subcommittees and letting people, so we kind of knew it was coming just because the conversations were happening. They haven't really had that with, you know, restaurants and, you know, businesses and retail. They haven't really had those conversations. So I do not have a good feel on where we're at with that. You know, I mean, I would, even if I guessed, I mean, it would just be Jeremy guessing, no data behind that.
Okay.
Jeremy, do we know, for instance, are they giving you the information about this uptick by Jupiter, Tequesta, or are they just saying Palm Beach County? So we really don't know if it is all Boca or if we're getting more at this end.
Today they had some specific zip codes that were up. Obviously, it wasn't Tequesta. I think we're holding at around 10 cases of positive cases in Tequesta, but it was. They gave us the zip codes. They weren't very specific on the cities. I didn't take the time to look up the zip codes, but it's very pockets, the ones that went up today. Of course, the hospitalizations and ICUs, I mean, that's a blanket just within the hospitals, but they did have they had a couple of hotbeds, and Chief's on the line. Chief True, I don't know if he remembers the hotbeds and to see if he looked up the zip codes or not.
I think it was
Chief True is unmuted.
Okay, just to answer the question about the zip codes, there was one zip code that was Jupiter that was considered a hot spot. I believe it's the western part of Jupiter, but and again, that is one spot that's pretty close to us.
Thank you.
I would reiterate what the manager said about hospitalizations being up in the beginning of the call today being very negative.
I guess the question is, I mean, for 1 minute you said that we'd have to pass a resolution if we want you to go forward with this, which we would have to put on, you know, a regular meeting agenda. I guess what I'm trying to get a sense of from a consensus standpoint is this something that we want to start the ball rolling? Do we want to wait another week or so? Do we want to get a resolution? I need other input from my fellow council members.
I'll state that, you know, I'm not a medical expert, and I would have a hard time supporting a resolution based on strictly just recommending to open up. I would support the idea of encouraging the county to look at us as a zip code specifically and use the medical data for our zip code to potentially, instead of grouping us all in one county, but maybe group it in based on zip codes. I see Jupiter has 119 cases. I see Tequesta has around 11, or 33469 has around 11. So that's a big difference between the two. And it'd be nice if we were looked at maybe by zip code, not necessarily as a municipality. I think that might get more difficult.
So that's more of an encouraging is what we might be looking at this as at this time.
If possible, to be able to, I mean, they got the data, and if we're able to open up based on, encourage them to open up based on specific data, based on specific areas, like zip codes, I think would be I would support that.
Okay.
Mayor, can I ask a question? And I probably shouldn't, but so is there a concern that, similar to the Palm Beach County, Broward, Miami-Dade argument, that if we've only got 10 cases and we want to open based on our data, but here we are, Jupiter has 100 and some cases, is there not a concern that those people will come to our restaurants because theirs aren't open? I mean, and visit our businesses, and then we have that community spread because the virus hasn't went away. I mean, the virus is still here. So I would guess that would be a concern of mine, and just want to make I'll do whatever you guys ask me to do, but that would be something that I think we should answer that question, as we move forward.
Well, I think, Jeremy, if you look at phase one, they're talking about 25% capacity. You still have to socially distance. You still have to wear face masks, obviously not when you're eating, but you're going to wear a face mask. The employees have to wear a face mask. So if we believe, quote unquote, the science, that those protections really work, and if they're properly in place, and people do what they're supposed to do, then I think the risk is minimal. But I think the benefit to our businesses that are quote unquote non-essential would be, in my opinion, would worth the risk. I think a lot of people are really suffering, and I think the quicker we can ease that suffering, and somebody said you don't want the cure to be worse than the disease. I think to the extent that we can ease that suffering and get people back into business sooner, again, using the data, using the proper protocols, I think that's the benefit if possible.
And I concur with you to a certain amount on that, Frank, as well. I mean, we're suffering as a business, but nowhere near like, specifically the restaurants are, and bars and et cetera like that. So, I mean, as long as the data, supports it, and everybody, does the prudent thing and being safe, wearing a face mask, et cetera, then I would certainly go along with it. I mean, I would like to get them opened up as soon as possible. And so, I mean, I would like to say that I would go along with the idea of pursuing it and gathering more information to go forward with that.
And of course, you're not forcing anybody to open. It's still be
Exactly.
if they're able to. It's the individual business's decision whether they want to move forward to open at that point.
Yeah.
I do agree with Jeremy in the aspect that we might be inviting people to come in, and that would create the potential risk of us going backwards, and then we would have to obviously shut that down. And that is definitely a risk that needs to be discussed and talked about.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly think that that's probably going to happen. But again, as long as everybody is wearing what they're supposed to be, if you're out in the public and going into restaurants, face masks, and protecting themselves and others, and then would be safe.
So the other question is that something that we can assume that our residents will do, or is that something that can be enforced?
Well, I think if I was a restaurant owner and I had somebody came into my restaurant, and this is again, you're leaving it up to the individuals and stuff to do it. But if I own a restaurant, I had somebody that came in that did not have a face mask on, I'd ask them either to go get one or leave. I mean, I would not put all my other patrons and stuff at risk simply because one individual decided not to abide by the regulations of wearing a face mask out in public.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Bruce. And in fact, I can tell you that that's already happened in a number of cases where people have come to the doors of restaurants that are open, and they're coming to take out, and they come without a face mask, and the
Mhm.
restaurant owners are saying, hey, you need a face mask before I open this door and pass this food along to you. So that's
Absolutely.
already happened in some instances.
Right.
Yeah, I think the takeout part works, but if you're going to have restaurants open, you can't eat if you have a face mask on. So I think there is a balance, and you do have to, I feel strongly that people should be responsible. They should be responsible for themselves. We shouldn't have to legislate this. We shouldn't have to do that. But the problem is that I see, it's not so much of our residents as much as the people that are hired often that work in these various businesses that really need to go to work. And unless they're taking temperatures and doing all of those things, we don't know if they are sick. And we don't know where they're coming from. They could be coming from Boca or West Palm. So as much as I would love to see several of our businesses open, I'd love to see them all, I think we can't pretend we're all by ourselves up here. We're not. People don't live here and necessarily, I mean, work here and necessarily live here. We're part of the bigger picture. We have to be part of the bigger picture. And I think that that is what's concerning. Now, Jeremy, to the extent that you even broached that conversation with our Northern County municipalities, like Frank said, or Keith said, you know, Commissioner Valashay, our North County representative commissioner, is definitely in favor of breaking Palm Beach County out of this. So maybe if we broke out the north part of the county, but at the same time, I understand how important it is for the county that we remain in lockstep. But is the lockstep really the three counties? I mean, there's all these pieces, but I just don't think we can carve out Tequesta and say that we're fine because we only have 10 cases and just kind of walk away from the rest of the county. I'm a little concerned about doing that. I know how important this is. To do it right. And I just don't know that we can be like our little island. We can't do it, not in this case, I don't think. But I'd like to hear what Jeremy, you know, if he gets any more conversations going about this, and maybe we would find some allies, and perhaps then we could speak with Commissioner Valashay and the state and see if we can do something to open up earlier.
Well, I'll of course have the conversation every day with other managers. So, I mean, I can express, you know, where our council stands and see if we can gather some support and see if that's something we can do. You know, my concern is just the actual message that, you know, having a unified front from our council that makes sure that all of our council wants this and that it's important to all of us, and just kind of having a unified front. So I'm not speaking for one or two council members, that we're speaking as a group. And I think that's where you guys are at, as long as the data supports it, and it's kind of a, I'll say a local decision, you know, and hopefully we can get other municipalities that are around us in thinking the same thing.
Well, as you said, Jeremy, the state has to give the flexibility to the county, and the county has to give it to us. So there's going to be a series of conversations here that have to take place. But again, I think you base it off data, you base it off the common sense protocols that have been proposed, whether people are employees or patrons, it doesn't matter. And I think if it's done properly, we can execute this. We can execute this, and we can get businesses back up and running and get people back to work.
Well, the one reason why I asked earlier if Jeremy had any conversation about, you know, having any idea when they might start relaxing some of the restrictions, allowing the restaurants, et cetera, to open back up, was the thought behind it was that going through this process, Frank, that you're proposing, I don't have a time frame on how long that would actually take. I would think it would take quite some time to go through the legal process of sequestering, the proposal, or not sequestering, but proposing it to the county and the county going to the state. I mean, you're talking about a long drawn out process. And of course, I don't know the inner workings of it. Jeremy would be able to answer that question a lot better than what I would have any knowledge of, but I would think it'd take 3 or 4 weeks to even try to get something like that remotely approved.
Yeah, I mean, you raise a good point, and I think you're right. It depends on what kind of time frame DeSantis has in mind for the county. But on the other hand, if you look at the actions that have been taken at the state level, it hasn't taken them very long to make these decisions. I mean, DeSantis has got that power. You know, you might question whether everything that's been decided across this country has been constitutional or not, but at this point, we're deferring to the governors. So I think if you can get to the governor or the people around him, it depends on how quickly you can go through, get to that point. I don't know if Jack Corey up in, you know, our liaison up there can help or assist in this process, but you're right. If it's going to take 3 or 4 weeks, hopefully by then we'd be open anyways.
Right.
But
Well, he's gonna, my old
move it more
slogan is
quickly.
that he's gonna open up a can of worms. If he starts allowing Tequesta to do it, and Lake Worth
Right.
is gonna do it. You know, I mean, it just goes right on down. He's gonna be bombarded by individual, you know, cities and stuff throughout Palm Beach.
Well, he
Broward,
would have to give the county the flexibility. The county would then have to give it to the municipalities, but you'd still have to have a set of criteria, which is what we've all talked about, you know, looking at the science, looking at the data sets. You still have to have a set of criteria that you would use to make that determination. So it wouldn't just be ad lib. It would be a formalized process.
Does
Anyways.
council have anything else before I open it to the public? All right, Lori, do you have anything written from the public?
No, I don't.
Nothing at all?
Nothing.
All right, Brad, do you want to open the phone lines?
Yep. Everybody's unmuted.
All right, the phone lines are open if anyone would like to comment on what we've been discussing here this evening. Any comments from the public? Doesn't appear to be, Brad. I guess you can put them back on mute and we'll wait for you to get back to us.
Okay. You're good to go.
All right, thank you very much. If it pleases council, we'll move on to agenda item 2, which is the temporary policy change. Also, Jeremy.
This item you have in front of you, because of the COVID, we've had a number of staff that have canceled their vacation plans, you know, not necessarily by mandate, because we haven't froze any vacation at any point, but a number of staff that I'm very glad that they have not taken vacation time. So what we're doing with this policy is we typically have a cap that if you're not below the 320 by September 30th, you lose that. This year, we're actually going to allow that cap to be removed so they can carry over some of their vacation time that they haven't used. And so by 2021, September 30th, they'll have to get back down to that 320-hour cap. And so that's all this is a temporary policy change, removing the 320-hour cap for vacation times. Should not have a big it shouldn't have any financial impact on the village. There may be some operational things, you know, if people start really trying to get down to the 320 cap next year, but we'll work through those things. Hopefully they give us plenty of notice for vacation. So I don't see a huge impact to this temporary policy change.
Okay. Any questions for Jeremy?
Jeremy,
on
how many,
this?
what's your best guess as to how many employees would actually be impacted by this change?
I'm guessing, I think we're in somewhere the 15 to 20 employee range. Marlene had sent me a sheet with it, but I would say no more than 15 or 20 would really, and it might even be less than that, because really we're only talking about PBA and non-union employees for this, because the other ones, I don't think we're talking about a lot.
Okay. Yeah, but my question was this going to be primarily public safety folks, which might make the juggling going forward in terms of scheduling maybe a little more challenging. But you're saying no?
No, it won't only be PBA or fire. I mean, their non-union has some as well. So But there's only so many people that are at that cap level that, you know, are over 320 or embarking on that. So I don't think that, you know, we're not talking about all the employees. We're just talking about a select few.
Okay, so minimal impact, you can manage through it, and it gives these people a chance to continue to do the good work that they're doing.
Right, I think so.
Okay. Anything else before we open it up? All right, Lori, do you have anything from the public?
I don't.
You do not. All right, Brad, one more time. Let's open up the lines.
Everybody's unmuted.
All right, thank you. Members of the public, is there someone that would like to speak to what we are talking about now with our policy? All right, I don't think so, Brad. I guess you can close it and we'll wait.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Is there anything else that council would like to discuss that isn't on the agenda?
I do have a couple other matters I'd like to bring up.
Yep.
But before I do that, I want to encourage the council to lead by example. I did get a complaint from an individual that works in the public that one of us went there and was not wearing a mask, and so I just encourage everyone to be wearing their masks if they're out and about within the public. But regarding other matters, I do want to bring up a topic of addressing maybe in another workshop, fishing from the bridge. I think that's something that I would like to bring back up and talk about whether or not it's something that we should maybe change or continue that. In addition, I serve on a committee with the chamber about mobility. I've seen a lot of different people using different bikes and scooters and different devices all throughout our village, and I know our code doesn't quite match maybe kind of what are the new technology that's coming out. And so talking about alternative ways of mobility around the village, address that. And in addition, Jeremy, you mentioned about maybe having a camera or purchasing a camera for being able to have meetings in the future within the village to be able to broadcast that from the chambers. Maybe look into what is the cost to do that. That's something that I think that we should probably do permanently going forward, and just curious on your thought there. But those are the three items that I want to bring up at some point.
All right. Anyone else? Well, I would like to say, I just want to give kudos to Lori and all that she has been doing through this. The communication with our community has been extraordinary. I'm sure everybody does as well, I get bulletins from all the communities around us that I'm on their list to send that information. And I have to say that we are really doing a great job, Lori, and I know that you're constantly doing so much as it is to begin with, and I know your staff as well, but I know that you really take the lead on this, so I wanted to give you a big pat on the back for what you're doing. Really, really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
I think we're doing well. I know I get a lot of good feedback from people that they're appreciative of it. So keep it up, and thank you very much for that. Is there anything else? All right, then. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night.
Aye.